today.
Right foot this time, Martin Odegaard.
Zinchenko from Ketty, it's four. Martinelli tiptoeing in. Predatory, perfect. There is a gorgeous arrogance about Arsenal now.
It really is. They are enjoying every second of this.
Hello and welcome to Not Another Arsenal Podcast, aka the Carl Jenkinson of Arsenal Podcast. My name is Mike Hers, your host. Today we will be talking slightly about the West Ham game. Undecided still, actually. We were pre-podcasting right now and decided to figure out that we didn't actually have a plan for the podcast tonight other than talk about United and the rivals' tears, if you will, about us scoring, quote, too many set pieces, quote, anti-football. That's what it is now. We're being dubbed anti-football. So we really gone full circle here, boys, because we went from like a team of son-in-laws. That was too easy, too fragile. We didn't want to fight. We didn't have cojones to now we're called dark arts masters and anti-football. So we really went full circle as a whole club in our fandom, if you will, in the last 20 years plus as Arsenal supporters. But we'll dive into all of it, and I'm sure we'll digress and end up talking about, I don't know, like Bova Serie A with his mishap that's going on with his medical issues. So we'll float around as we normally do. First and foremost, as always, my co-hosts are always drinking before. I feel you guys are going to make me regress. I say regress. I don't know if that is the proper word.
That's regress. No, that's right.
Household. Yeah. I'm going to go back. You guys are drinking me into common sense is what's going to happen here. Chris, welcome back. Don't forget to take yourself off of mute. How's everything going, my friend?
Good. I am drinking a fitting beer for the occasion. It's Kelly and I's favorite dark beer. It's called Celebrator or Celebrator, or whatever German accent you want to put on it. It's a lovely little German beer.
Delicious.
But perfect for the occasion tonight because we're celebrating another win. What is it? I don't know. I don't even know how many in a row against United. 6, 7, 8, whatever. 688.
Well, it's I was thinking about this too. It's 4 in a row for the first time in our history in the league, but there's also I think there's a FA Cup somewhere in there too.
Yep.
It's like 5 or 6 in a row now at this point, which is flipping astonishing if you think about it. Because I could think back all the way to like the Welbeck days that we hadn't beaten them at Old Trafford, and that wasn't even a league game. That was just a cup game. Wonderful cup game. I still remember him scoring and celebrating, but it's quite astonishing. There's a graphs out there. I'm sure Chris will work his magic and get it up, but I think the closest one is like 500 days worth of one of our top 6 rivals not being able to beat us. We've extended Chelsea up to like 1,000 or some nonsense like that. It's really remarkable if you think about it, because I mean, for as much as the juggernaut that City is and how consistent Liverpool has been on the top of the table, for them not to beat us in like 3 seasons now at this point, I mean 2.5 at the very least, or 3.5, it's quite amazing that they haven't been able to crack the code, so to say, for as much as the rivals want to tell us that we're absolute dog shit. So
822 days. I just found it. Which is 2.5 years, something like that. It's remarkable, honestly. And if you grew up in the era where we were used to being on the wrong side of a United Arsenal fixture, which many of us have, it's just extra sweet to be able to put one on them and then to see the absolute head loss online from, I don't know, our favorite Mark Goldbridge to some randos who are trying to make a buck off of crying about Arsenal and Man United to, your standard guys that we all can point to online that just have lost their ever-loving mind because, we beat them scoring 2 set pieces and they couldn't get within an arm's length of us. It's hilarious. Here's the graphic, by the way. Mike, you were referring to.
Thank
It's
you. You know
wild.
what? You work very quickly, Chris, because
I try.
I went in there just to look for the Mark Goldberg hiding behind his chair thing
It's
when
in
you
there.
mentioned them, and I'm like, oh look, Chris already got that covered. So, yeah, dude, 586 for City, 611 for Spurs, 822 for United, 922 for Liverpool, and 1,198 for Chelsea. So
I mean, that's almost 4
roughly,
years for Chelsea.
yeah. That's
What's-
roughly between 2 to 4 years for all of those teams, which again, remarkable. Like they say if you can't win a game, don't lose, and consistency versus top six has always been a problem. To your point, Chris, we used to go into these type of games and think, fuck, if we could give it like a respectable 3-1, that would be fantastic, right? I mean, let's be honest.
Just minimizing the loss.
Minimize the loss. That's where we're going, and slowly but surely, as time has passed by, we've been getting, as the young whippersnapper said, we got good.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So it's quite remarkable. It's nice being on this side of the fence. We gotta put on the crown, boys. You guys could tell that I'm cracking. I want to see some silver is what I'm hoping for. But
We all
before I
do.
get sidetracked and completely skip Kelly like I did last week, Kelly, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It is brutally cold here. It's like 5 degrees in Minnesota. So much so that we canceled our plans because we'd have to be outside for a little bit, which does happen. So we just canceled the entire night and stayed in and ate pizza. So it's not the worst night, but oh boy, does it make it sweeter to make sure that I'm on for this one. Yeah, the online reaction is just objectively hilarious because, like Mike said, we've done this big tonal shift in the last couple of years where Arsenal are so soft, ha ha ha. They don't like it up them, ha ha ha. To Arsenal going and getting really tough and buying a bunch of giants and being like, oh, I'd football, like worst football ever, just dominating on
Stoke
corners.
City.
Yeah, Stoke City. It's like, listen, ain't nobody on Stoke City could put a ball consistent. Like people are finally recognized. It's like, do you know how difficult it is for Declan Rice and Bukayo Saka to take corners and put them in the exact right spot all the time with whip?
Every single time.
It's almost impossible. And like we have to remember, Partey missed a point blank header that almost bounced in off of him. And Marino had an uncontested header that missed the post by about 6 inches. Like there should have been 4 corner goals. And if Gabriel's in there, probably 4 goals, and he's probably getting 2 of them. So like, but you should get more credit. I think like, what we're doing. We're not even disguising what we're doing, and you can't stop it. You can't do anything about it. And that's like when City get their flowers and everything too. Or when they've gotten them, it's like, what they're going to do. They're going to work the ball through the team, come to the end line and pull back and tap in. Why can't you stop it? And like Liverpool, it's like, they're going to press you. Why don't you just go over the top of it? How are you turning it? How are you letting them turn you over here? If you're great at something, you can't stop it, and it creates goals. And when it's something that happens as rarely as or as frequently rather as a corner kick happens, like mastering that skill is amazing. It's no different than having set piece specialists that play to get the ball, a dead ball 25 yards away from goal and can put it in. It's no different than that. Like you wouldn't bag on, like nobody says James Ward-Prowse is such a set piece merchant. Like look at how many free kicks he scored. What a loser. Why can't you score from open play, James Ward-Prowse? Because that's what he fucking does. That's his specialty.
Yeah, or Roberto Carlos or any other set piece specialists.
Yeah, it's like it's one of those things that's just wild. It's like, okay, because nobody else can maximize this situation the way Arsenal do. It's somehow bad. But really it's one of those things where it's just online dipshits going. At the very least with Goldbridge, though, I think his comment on the second one is like, I think he said something to the effect of, you can't let a team as good as Arsenal get corner kicks on you. Kind of like when you're doing.
Yeah, he wasn't complaining of the fact that we scored versus Arsenal. He was complaining about the defending that United were doing that could not stop us from getting said corners. And I did think that was funny, as one of the more boneheaded comments that I've seen online today, Kelly, was 13 corners to 0, and these guys are celebrating. And I'm like, excuse me, we were on the front foot and in your final third all fucking game, and we created those corner kicks. It's something like corner kicks doesn't happen because your team is shitty.
Yeah.
That amount of corner kicks happen because your team is consistently pressing and creating opportunities.
Yeah, in the final third.
And your final third. And either your goalkeeper was tipping it over the post, either your defenders are deflecting it outwards, either Rashford is just voluntarily kicking it, seemingly because he can't do keep ups.
Odegaard just patted him after he did that. like, did you see the dismissive? Like, he does it, and Odegaard kind of like pats him in the stomach, watching like, you stupid fucker. Thanks for that. Just amazing.
It's outrageous, and just kind of, like, I know he's been in kind of good form. I think he scored 2 goals in the last 3 under Amorim, so he's clearly finding some type of joy and happiness again. But it's just this idea that, oh my God, they're feasting and they're only creating corners. No, we're not only creating corners. The corners are coming as a downfall, a whim, a trickle down effect of our pressing and our actual pushing for an actual goal. Whether they go in or not, I mean, it is what it is. They don't go in, but I do find it humorous that like they tried to make 13 corners to 0 a bad thing for Arsenal, and I'm over here like, how does that, like, do you understand football? Like, I mean, you're killing me right now.
Yeah, they had one good chance all match, and so their plan to win this match. And I was trying to reply to people online too. It's like, you didn't play. You lost like 2.5 goals to 0.3, and almost all of it came on one play. One like cross in one, and it was a free kick. That was a dumb free kick. That was just a gimme that Zinchenko did his once per match, like, stupid dawdle on the ball, and then tackles the guy to take his yellow.
Yeah,
but yeah, I know, and we'll get to him. But like, that's where that came from. That was effectively, it's like a corner except closer in. That was also a set piece. Otherwise, their XG would have been under 1.5 or less. Like, they did nothing. They didn't try to do anything. Their entire setup was to block lanes and stop Arsenal from doing anything. They
came
went
for a draw.
They showed up trying to stink out a 2-0 draw, and you can't do that against this Arsenal, especially if part of your program again is going to be clogging up lanes and sitting a bunch of people in the box. Is like, we're just gonna shoot, and if it goes through, then it's going to be a goal, and if you block it, it's going to be a corner, which we convert better than any team in Premier League history, as far as I'm aware. Certainly recent history. So like, okay, like, if you want to go and try to stink out a match, like, that's fine. We'll also get very stinky, but we're better at it than you are, because look at who they got running around out there. They got like Malacio and like all these fucking Ten Hag legacy buys that are just terrible running around. And like with Amorim too, like, he's getting all this praise for saying, it's like, didn't we just shit on Arteta for being too defensive? Like, why is Amorim, who didn't try to do anything, like, how come he's like, oh, we can really see what they're doing? Like, somebody said it's like, well, this is like phase 9 of Arteta, and this is like Amorim's 3rd game. So obviously, like, I'm way more encouraged. It's like, the fuck kind of cope was it? You showed up and tried to stink out a midweek game, and you got paddled the entire time. What are you talking about?
They generally try to stake it up to your point, because this whole Stoke City label that we're getting here, Chris.
Yeah.
Listen, to an extent, I could understand how something so stupid catches fire within social media, but then our good mate Sebi shared in our back channel.
Berbatov, yeah, he said it.
Berbatov is saying, we joke around about Stoke, and it's, even if he prefaced it by saying we joke around and say Stoke, your media, your professional, your depth and quality in which you speak about the game should be more than social media chatter of they're Stoke City. You should be above that. But I've had a long history saying that these fuckos are no better than fan channels, and we've said it here, like a Mark Goldberg will give you better content and most likely less reactionary, if you will, like that type of thing where like they're just trying to get some fucking clicks, so they have to generate some bullshit headline. I responded to Clive Palmer about that. He said that the media asked some pretty shitty questions to Arteta after the game. And I said, to be fair, in my opinion, most media now, they want a headline. They don't want insight. They don't want to be like, hey, tactically, what did you do? They just want to be like, hey, can we get you to poke at Slot? Because Slot said that you were up 9 points last season. You didn't win. What is your response to that? So they don't spend too much time actually asking an insightful question that may lead to some good technical quality, like conversation. Like we all praised Fucko for Spurs now. He used to play for Leicester City. Madison, I think he was. When he was in Leicester City, he used to give like some really nice, long, insightful conversations about the game, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, how refreshing that is!" Right? But you don't exactly give managers the opportunity to do that. Chris, I'll let you take away talking about Almiron and the whole Stoke City. I thought it was funny. I'm desperately trying to find the fill tilt of this game, and thus explain the corners that we had. And it was 62-37. But when I Twitter search Arsenal United, of course, this West Suburban fella over here, speaking of sacking.
You know who the idea that is.
Yeah, you sacked the man and replaced him with the man who is just like him, referring to Eric Ten Hag with hair. 0 touches in Arsenal's box in the first 42. That's most West. I don't know who West Suburban EFC is on Twitter, but I mean, that man is. You know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and retweet that, because that man is a quality troll. But Phil Tilt was 62-37. But go ahead. This whole Stoke City label, more than anything, Chris, if you could speak about it on like the media, like what are we doing really? Like, shouldn't they be better, Chris, or am I just holding them to higher standards, or should I lower my expectations? In other words,
they should be, but this is the English media. This is the modern English media. Populated by mostly Liverpool and Manchester United, either former players or fans or both. Which is why I find Ian Wright refreshing, even if I don't always love how he represents Arsenal and some of the things he says about us. I think in general he provides a different opinion to the north part of England, which is what is dominated in the English media. And I think they realize that they are getting beat by fan channels and good content rich pods that fans of teams are putting out, like Arseblog and Arsenal Vision for Arsenal, and I'm sure many others at other clubs. And they see who gets the clicks and the attention, and they decide to take the easy route and go for the inflammatory, controversial bullshit. So that's why Neville and Carragher are the face of the media in England, is because they're not really interested in doing any sort of serious analysis. They're out there to wind people up, and all you have to do is look at what Gary Neville's reaction to Arsenal's goals today. He's not unbiased, and he doesn't even pretend to be unbiased.
No,
he pretends to be a Manchester United fan speaking on behalf of Manchester United. And what he's supposed to be is at least from my American perspective, used to seeing how most sports in the US are commentated on. You get a guy who at least is trying to pretend to be fair-minded, to be neutral, to call it as he sees it, as opposed to trying to wind up a whole entire fan base. So Clive talks about this a lot. He's much better at it than I am because he's lived it for a long time. We get a slice of it here because, NBC Sports / Peacock / whoever is owning the rights to the American broadcast has some of those guys on the broadcast, but they get it full force nonstop. They've gotten it for a long time. And he's talked a lot about how he hates the fact that he's forced to listen to their version, to their interpretation of what's happening on the pitch, to the extent that he just turns it off. He doesn't even listen to it anymore, and I don't blame him.
What's wild too is that, so from a pure American perspective, we have the Champions League on Paramount, and the reason why that is so fun is that they just have a good time. It's like the NFL coverage in the United States, where it's a bunch of guys who played for a bunch of these teams, and they just laugh and have fun and do analysis. That's what they do. And even though Micah Richards is on there, and even you can even see even in that forum, what the fuck? Carragher is on there.
Yeah.
They have fun and joke and analyze.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's an American style thing, where the point of it is to be entertaining, but not turn into cable news stuff. It's
like TNT's coverage of the NBA with Shaq and those guys. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
There's some good banter there too.
Charles Barkley. Those guys are fun. They just take the piss out of each other.
Yeah,
and
they're
just
taking
joke around.
they're taking the piss out of each other, joking around. They do some analysis, but it's mostly there to entertain and process, right? That's what it is. And the English media has that thing, and maybe it's just a uniquely British thing, but this kind of like waft of like, no matter what stupid shit I say, you owe it to me to take it as serious as like a fucking heart attack, right? And it's like, but you're not being serious. You're just being rubes sitting on a couch. And I understand like the point of the overlap is to try to recreate that American style thing, what we're talking about, right? So inside the NBA and then like Champions League stuff and then like Fox and CBS desk coverage of the NFL. That's what they're trying to do. But these people are so ingrained and so ensconced in their club that they don't take the hat off at all. And again, that's also exasperated by the fact that like those are the biggest fan bases too in England. So they represent the biggest fan groups that are out there too. And so, I mean, most of the knife fights, I mean, how often do we get into a punching match or a punch up online with like Brighton fans? It's always, it's Chelsea, Liverpool, United, City, and Spurs. And that's everything. That's all the insane takes all come from those groups. Even like when Forrest was like puffing out their chest a little bit
And
earlier
that
this year.
one
Like,
West Ham guy.
and that one West Ham guy that exists to troll because West Ham is so bad he has to glob his fat face on the court like the side of other.
I knew
fingers,
you
like a
knew
fucking
who
barnacle.
I was talking about.
Yeah, the Wojak, the fat Wojak meme in real life. That guy.
That'll be him. Yes, 100%.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. It is one of those things that I think maybe if we were more, it'd be easier to process if we were. I think because we are American. And we are from this hemisphere, and then we kind of it's just sports coverage is different here, and I think it always shocks me when I see direct from England media because of how like again their sports coverage is basically like our cable political news, where it's so shameless and so one-sided and so delivers the exact flavor that their audience is targeted, and it's so twisting and manipulative of the circumstance that it's like. It's there to elicit angry replies and to elicit incredibly partisan cheers. And then because of those diametrically opposed views of this distorted reality, it just creates a giant interaction fight. And like, I don't know.
It's true. I occasionally listen, with the benefit of knowing Spanish. When I do open up my YouTube TV, occasionally it says, "Hey, just FYI that we're also airing it on this random." This random channel in Spanish. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. This gentleman, I gotta say this in the live chat. I'm gonna give you a shout out because thank you for joining us in the live chat. But I think you messaged us in the live chat the exact same thing last time we did a podcast.
I was just about to say,
let me on the stream so I could tear you a lot a new one. I'm not quite sure that is the flattering invitation that I'm trying to look for in order to get somebody on the podcast. But I appreciate your enthusiasm, and I want to say thank you once more for joining us on the live chat. If you are real or AI, anyways, I mean,
give us a
subscribe. Yeah, make sure you subscribe. I say like Digi Scott, like he's not active in the live chat a whole lot, but my man, dude, look, he's always active in the comments after, and I got to tell you, he's like such a supporter of the podcast. Not only does he always type up all hail the algorithm on our YouTube feed, just to leave a comment, but also on Blue Sky. Like I see a random DM, right? And he says, "I can't believe I posted the pod before you." And I was like, what is he talking about? So I click on his profile on Blue Sky and I start scrolling, and I'm like, holy shit, he literally posted the podcast link on Blue Sky. I'm like, this man is already he's doing a way better job than me already as far as promoting the podcast on a different platform. So shout out to him. Come on, Yuna says he's real. So we are confirmed he is not a bot. That is always awesome. But yeah, hey, thanks for joining us. And hey, maybe we're your cup of tea, maybe we're not your cup of tea, but that do be how football content happens and does work sometimes. So hopefully you do stick around and give us a chance and see if we could sway you, if you will. But let's talk about the back four for a little bit, because we did have a little bit of a surprise, Kelly, and the fact that Gabriel and who's our other left back, the one single left back? Wait, we had Zinchenko. Who's the other left back? Oh yeah, Calafiori. Thank you. As you maneuver the the Italian in me, I'm like, I blanked out for a split second. Yeah, Calafiore and Gabriel both, were able to play the West Ham game. Both escaped with knocks, and there was a late physical check, but unfortunately they couldn't start. So look, I think for the most part, Kelly, we came in as Arsenal supporters fairly confident in our current form and United's current form, and we thought we were going to be doing good, but I got a little shaky, to be honest with you, when I saw a combination of Kivior and Zinchenko on our left-hand flank. It's not quite Calafiore and Gabriel.
Not quite.
Lord knows I praise Gabriel as much as I can. So, yeah, I mean, individually, I think Kivior held his own for the most part, as well as Zinchenko. But Zinchenko couldn't escape his classic blur, his classic knucklehead move of the game. So talk to me about our left side of the defense, Kelly.
Well, I was based on the fact that they have been playing, and that's been we haven't seen Miles Lewis-Skelly a ton lately, and Zinchenko is coming in. He's had a couple pretty good cameos. Again, he is a veteran, and Kivior is there to be a backup for that position. So that's what, kind of in a larger group chat that we're in, people are kind of bantering around or kind of tossing around what they might want to do. It's like, oh, does Timber go to this side? Does Party get back? And I just said, no, Zinchenko is going to play left back, and then Kivior is going to play left center back. I didn't think there was a lot of question. It's just because that's the patterns I've been seeing. And it worked out smart. I mean, kind of taking a look at it too, I think there's some pragmatism as well. Like the things that Kivior has, and probably for myself too, he has looked bad because he's probably a left-sided center half and a back three that's been forced to play as a traditional left center back. And
most of the time left back too.
That's my bad. But left back, and kind of defending on an island is not something that a lot of center backs do. And we get spoiled by the fact that Gabriel and Saliba can absolutely defend a winger in the channel on an island. But we got to understand that it's basically him and Van Dijk and Konate, and there's a handful of these guys that can do that without looking like complete buffoons. We just happen to have two of the best in the world at doing that specific thing. And so when Kivior is out there, Gabriel has to babysit him. I mean, we all see the patterns are right, but in this match, I think against a side that's playing a kind of more of a 3-5-2 or a 3-5 whatever, doesn't have a ton of attacking thrust. Is I'm sure Arteta gambled was going to be pretty conservative and pretty blocked up, having played Amorim teams before. I think it was just one of those where it's we're not going to push, we're not going to recycle the entire team to accommodate this. Zinchenko's is the healthy backup left back on the depth chart, and Kivior is the backup left center back, and we're just going to play him. And they were totally fine. Again, Zinchenko had his boner, which he always does, trying to do too much. And that's the frustrating thing about Zinchenko is that he does it when he's trying to do too much and not when he's trying to be simple. And I appreciate it kind of as that was happening, that Kivior and Raya were just booting the fuck out of it. And once we got up 2-0, Zinchenko would kind of roll them back in tight positions, and they were just putting their foot through the ball and just be like, fuck this shit. Try to get through us. We're not going to give you anything. And that Zinchenko moment was one of the only times where we gave them something. And it's just something that in his DNA, he's got a lot of as the kids say, has the bozo gene in him a little bit. Again, but I think he was largely clean for most of the match. He was wandering around. He was playing passive. He was fairly tidy. He did the thing where he wins more aerials than you think. Lost a few challenges. It was a totally serviceable match, especially when you're playing a team where, let's be honest, an underpowered team that's mid-table. And that's who we were playing against. Even though we didn't play the badge, we played the team we were playing, and it was fairly indistinguishable from playing Forest or Fulham or something like that. So it was fine. I applaud Arteta for having the bravery to not overplay and overstress his players. And I think, this is my speculation, maybe it's just the things coming up, but I think that we have a modus operandi as a club right now is when our guys have knocks, we're not going to play them through it. We are going to rotate. We're going to trust our squad. We have more ways of playing than this, and we are going to live to fight. We'd rather play a fresh and ready Kivior and Zinchenko than force on Calafiore with a groin pull and then Gabriel with whatever he's managing. And I think it's probably laid out that, the reason why Ben White hasn't been as good this year and why he's having months out with a procedure is because he's been managing a knee thing for a year. And he never got fit and he never got clean, and it means that we don't have him now, and we haven't had him. Basically, we haven't had full speed Ben White for an entire year, and so like it really does seem like we are trusting our squad more and managing with our player, trusting our squad depth more. And I mean, there's certain areas like Saka, if he's not there, you can't do anything about it. Like we saw, if Odegaard said, you can't do anything about it. There's some players that are irreplaceable, but other players in other areas, even if we have among the best players in the world, in Gabriel's case, at that spot, we can still beat mid-table teams at home handily with Kivior there. And that's a good thing, I think, for everybody's confidence. And Kivior specifically, I was really impressed because Højlund is the type of guy who would give him problems. Højlund is a fucking terrible footballer, but he's really big and he's really strong and he's pretty fast. And he's good at holding the ball up. And Saliba and Kivior, neither of them had any problem dealing with this shit. It's just it's one of those things where it's just like they don't have a lot going for them right now. They don't have a lot to offer. And so if you can stand up to them and not get run past or have it go over, it's fine. We're fine.
I think right here, BX Schooner, I mean, hit the nail on the coffin as far as I'm the nail on the head, not the coffin, as far as I'm concerned here. Kivior shines in a simple system, and when he is in his natural position, so natural position, most likely left center back, and you're not asking him to run up the field as much and progress the ball as Gabriel. So it's kind of one of those things you almost have to balance. Is like you're very well aware that whoever comes back, even if we purchase a left center back or a right center back, we kind of all feel like it's a massive drop from Saliba and Gabriel. That partnership, just in general. So
also Saliba had a Superman cape on the entire day, and I hope we talk about him because with Gabriel out, he was on it. He was on the front foot, and he just made them look like complete children the entire time. And I think that helps too. That it's like, okay, I got to watch this left side and I got to protect Kivior. So I think there was a little bit of like, Gabriel will get our inexperienced left backs through matches and help them and do a lot of the progression himself and back him up. I think Saliba was very much like the pep talk beforehand is you got to make sure that no shit sluices through that side. That's you. You got to do everything today. And he said, okay, boss, and went and did it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Chris, I'm going to give you an opportunity to talk about Manchester United's squad for a little bit. I'm well aware that they were slightly depleted, but I believe this is where you're going to shine and maybe enjoy some banter as you like. I will point out a lovely tweet by Jared Carver, which is every podcaster's favorite podcaster. And he said, how have a big team as United built a squad that is nothing but guys that belong in the bottom half of the table? No one to fear except Bruno here. And it is kind of remarkable. I will say this. I was thinking about Mount today, and it's one of those players that got away that allegedly, reportedly Arteta wanted. And I look at Mount the same way I see Mudryk. I'm like, what the fuck was he fishing for here? But Harry Maguire started the game. Garnacho, rate him or not rate him, I kind of think he's a little bit average. Højlund, he hasn't really shined thus far. Mason Mount hasn't been good. Ugarte has the Casemiro, let me get a card all the time. Dalot, let me tell you something about Dalot. He was on loan for Milan a few seasons ago. And I remember Milanistas being happy when they signed him. Like, oh, finally, we got somebody better than Calabria. And I was kind of like, no, he's not. I assure you, I'd rather you guys play for Calabria. And so, and then Onana, who's kind of been like a little bit of a mess ever since he signed. So, yeah, if you look at the squad, literally, man, it's kind of funny because 3-4 years ago, Chris, we would see these two teams and like, man, this is like the most pitiful classic derby game, whatever you want to refer to it as, right? Because it's such an historical game and both squads used to be scrubs for the most part. Now, fast forward 3-4 years, you got a team with like Partey, Declan Rice, Odegaard, Saka, Havertz, like just massive names. And then you got on the flip side, you're like, who are these people to an extent? And the thing is, like, let's not do the deep dive in transfer fees thing, but we all know if we do the deep dive.
Oh, I just did while you were talking.
Yeah, I should have
Believe
known.
me.
Like if we, like the cost of this team might rival the cost of our team.
It's more. I mean,
it's more. And the wages. I mean, Chris is already. He's already
$750 million British sterling in the last 5 years. Can I just read off some of the names that they've acquired that aren't even there anymore?
Please.
Absolutely,
Some of
go
them.
for it.
Just in the last 5 years. This doesn't count like in 1920 when they bought Harry Maguire for 87 million euros, or Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who's not there anymore but is already scoring goals for
West Ham
for 55 million euros. Okay, so in 2021 they bought Donny van de Beek for 40 million euros. Alex Telles, if you can tell me,
he plays in Brazil
right now.
He plays in Brazil.
Good luck. See, of course, Kelly could.
They buy him. They bought him from Juve. Was that or from Portugal?
From FC Porto.
Yeah. Okay.
They bought Rafael Varane, who is he retired?
He's retired. He went and played for like a half a season at Como and then retired
for 40 million euros. They bought Jadon Sancho, who's now scoring goals for Chelsea. They bought him for 85 million
and sold him for like 30.
Exactly. They bought Lisandro Martinez, the butcher,
fire, Kelly,
for 60 million. They bought Casemiro for 70 million. They bought Anthony, who came on with his angry look in his eyes, for 95 million euros.
He might be the worst buy in the history of the Premier League. I'm not joking.
It absolutely is. But
it's
underappreciated
how terrible that player is, and he's somebody who would go, if we're talking about I think he'd get his ass kicked if he went to Italy. I don't know where he's going to go now.
I'm not entirely sure. No,
he's going to leave on a free and then go some non-top 5 league team. He's got to be
going to Saudi next. I don't know why they fucking want him, but
I mean Højlund for 74 million, Mason Mount for 65 million, Andre Onana. I mean he's a good in possession goalkeeper, but
he's the best one you've listed so far.
50 million.
And he's like, all these players are worth less than half of what they paid for him now.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
If not more.
So yeah, it's just a collection of dog shit that Erik ten Hag acquired because he knew who they were from his Ajax days. I mean, half those guys. We haven't even talked about De Ligt yet from this last year. De Ligt, Ugarte, 50 million. De Ligt, 45 million. Xerxes for 42 million. Lenny Euro, who knows? He might be a player. He's 18. He's fine.
I said too, Ugarte, what the fuck did they pay that much? Why were they chasing him the entire? Isn't there 10 people that they could have gotten to play exactly the same level, conservative, kind of pseudo destroyer DM? It wouldn't have taken much to find that. Why the fuck did they spend so much time chasing that guy? Who cares?
No idea. So
did you include what is it, Joro? The new guy that they just
Joro. Yeah,
for 70 million.
60 million. He could be all right, but he's
just funny to me, Chris, in the sense that it was his last, if I'm not mistaken, last year in his contract, and a club like Real Madrid. And I'm not going to subtract anything whether he's good or bad because I don't watch French football. Yeah. Because I don't like French people. Hence why he's no longer on the pod.
The worst people on earth.
Exactly. Nothing against his quality thus far because I haven't seen him play that much within the English league, of course. But he's just a funny story in which Real Madrid went over there and was like, hey, 20 or something, and the team's like, no, we're not letting him go. He's like, it's last year of his contract. Are you sure? He goes, yeah. And Real Madrid, out of all the teams, were like, we ain't paying you more, fucko. Here comes United.
They spent more than double what we spent for Saliba for a guy at the same age. Now, again, he could turn out to be fine. He could turn out to be good. But they paid 62 million for him. We paid 30 million, a little less than 30 million for Saliba. It's just, I don't know. It's crazy purchasing. It suggests a club that has no direction at the executive level. Apparently they've got now a boatload of executives at that club. I don't know what the hell they do, but they've got 3 times the number of executives at United than they do at any other club. So too many cooks in the kitchen, you know how that goes. So I'm not convinced that they've righted the ship and know what they're doing, but they've got a young manager who was successful in Portugal, but does he have the gravity? Does he have the authority? Does he have does he have the willingness, does he have permission to shape that club in the way that it should go? He clearly knows what he was doing in Portugal. Can he do it at United? I have some serious doubts.
Well, also the type of football he plays like a back three in a pretty plugged up type of football. Like that's not
3-4-2-1. Yeah.
Yeah, he plays a 3-4-2-1 that doesn't score a ton of goals. That kind of like, again, remember when we played them, like they were living off of like frustrating us and stinking out matches and stuff. And like, it's been interesting. I've been listening to the Miguel Delaney book, The States of Play, about kind of soft power and state ownership and sports washing and stuff. And they're kind of going chronologically. He's in the spot where he's describing kind of City and how they came in and like how they took over and how part of the reason why some of these, and then how Chelsea transitioned from Mourinho and everything. And part of the reason why is that they didn't play entertaining football, even though they were winning. They didn't like the style. So these like big money owners were like, the fan bases weren't satisfied. Like, and they kind of compared it to the spectacle, like Roman emperors, like throwing on games to distract you from other stuff. Like you need to have it be really fancy.
Yeah, bread and
otherwise,
circuses.
yeah, it's the bread and circus thing. And it's kind of like, I think United have been so bad that they take functional now, but I don't think that's going to last. In order, there's no like flash players there. And so like, that's the other thing too, is that if you're going to get a guy to stop the bleeding and lay the foundation before you can take the next step, you don't hire a 38-year-old manager to do it from Portugal, who's only coached in Portugal. So that's number one, that I find him to be a weird fit. And two, if you're going to commit to a long-term project, they're going to have to do the shit that Arteta did and was empowered to do, which is just take a lot of these guys out back and shoot them, and then like bring in other players specifically for that playing style. And the idea with Arteta was, it's like, okay, you're going to get kind of a kind of like a Pepian, like solid back, but some intricacy, whatever. And that's kind of morphed into something that's all entirely his own, right? It's kind of a combination of stout defensive-ness to strong technical play to like some bully ball stuff. So Arteta football has kind of evolved and everything. But like, if they do all that stuff, is Amorim the guy that they want? His style of football, is that what they want to like set hundreds of millions of pounds on fire for? And because I mean, that's what you're going to have to do with Casemiro. That's what you're going to have to do with, I mean, probably Harry Maguire and like some of these guys. You're just going to have to just fucking torch them and then hit on some other players. And it's like there's a lot of 300K plus wage earners there that can't go anywhere else and have no transfer value at their contract. So you're just going to have to fuck them off. And are they going to have the courage to do that? And I think the answer is probably no. So how good can Amorim be? Even if he is a great coach, how good can he be? At least right now. I don't know. Hopefully fucking terrible. I'd love for them to fire him before the end of the year. That'd be great.
If I can,
that would be absolutely insane, by the way, if they fired him. But yeah, it's good. I'm sorry. Just every time you said Amorim, I thought you were saying Emery, and I'm like, oh God, are we going to talk about Emery and his?
No, he's great again because he won his first match in like a dozen today. So he's obviously great again.
He's in a hot run right now.
Better than Arteta for sure.
Yeah, one more win and we'll get the better than Arteta comments coming back. Yes, absolutely. Go ahead, Chris.
Stupid. If I can just answer your question directly though, because I never got to it, Mike, about their lineup. I think what they were trying to do was they were trying to play a very defensively solid, absorb pressure, hit us in the counter. I mean, you look at their formation in 3-4-1-2. You basically clog up the middle by playing your two in a very narrow way so that you have a hard time accessing central spaces, which is, I think, the only time that clubs have gotten joy from us this year outside of getting us down to 10 men was to block out the middle and play a mid block and force us around the edges and then double up our corners and force us into like a lot of crosses into the box and hope that they can head it out. I think that's what they were trying to do. I mean, it's clear that they weren't really trying to attack in the first half. They had 0 touches in our own box in the first 42 minutes, 6 overall for the entire game, which suggests that there was no attacking impetus on their part. In possession, they tried to go long to Højlund and win second balls or beat us in channels. I know when Højlund tried to stick himself onto Kivior because he knew he could try and bully Kivior in a way that he couldn't with Saliba. And so they were going long to Højlund in hopes that he could have some joy that way. I think it was a pretty rudimentary, kind of nakedly obvious way to play. And it worked in the first half. I think we all felt frustrated after the first half that there needed to be some correction. And I think we saw some correction. I mean, just disqualify the fact that both of our goals came from corner kicks. I think we found a lot more joy in the second half just from open play in general, because I think we made the tactical tweaks to figure out what they were doing. And I think his goal was really to then put on speed at the end, towards the end of the second half, 60 minutes, 75 minutes. You saw who came in. It was Rashford, it was Xerxes, it was
Triple
Diallo.
sub too.
Yep, totally. And I think they were trying to hit us at times when we might be a little bit more tired, down our flanks and in the center of defense. And again, outside of that one chance that you mentioned, Kelly, they really found no joy from us at all. And so I think it was probably one of a few options that Amarim had available to him, given the state of that squad. I don't think they could have gone toe to toe with us, but it just didn't work. And while a lot of United fans will disqualify the performance because both goals were scored from corner kicks, we were dominant that whole game, and the XG suggests that. The other underlying stats suggest that we were dominant that entire game and deserved to win in every way, shape, or form.
Well, and you had said this too, Chris, during the match. Like, we were very content to watch them sterilely pass the ball between their back three. Like, that's fine. And like, because I think we had a few. I think the total possession was about 50-50 or somewhere around there, give or take a couple percentages. And I think the passes
149. Yep.
Yeah, the passes completed was fairly similar too. And they had no touches in the box and had almost no XG. Yep. Like, they just passed it around and knocked it around a little bit. And like, when you think back at what stands out, it's like, oh, there was that one time where they tried to chip the ball over Timber and he got a toe on it and recovered it. And it's like, that's like near the corner of the box. It's like, oh, okay. The great graphic, which is the Stat Muse boys doing some good trolling, was that a famous NBA player, he's not famous NBA, but like kind of an also ran bench or fringe starter NBA player named Tony Snell, once played 28 minutes, which is a huge chunk of an NBA game, and put up zeros. He had no meaningful stats. So he had no points, no assists, no rebounds, no steals, so he basically existed on the court without making any impact at all. And they put Garnacho's thing up there because in like 7 statistical categories, he had 0. So he had like no goals, no shots, no assists, no chances created, no dribbles completed, no duels won. Like, it was one of those things where like he was on for like an hour and he drew like 2 jammy fouls, and that's literally all he did the entire time. So like, they put him in there as like the Tony Snell scoreline, but for football. And which is I think illuminating too, because he's one of their most dangerous players, and they were trying to get change up. And that's another one, we haven't mentioned Timber yet. Timber scored.
Oh, he's so good.
And he absolutely
kind of good at football.
Jesus, like, he
good.
Absolutely smut. He's like a fucking wet towel on that side, where he just over their head and just like waterboarding the life out of that side. And he does that thing too that I think is really good, where he knows where the line is. He's really disciplined, and so he knows where the line is for the contact that he can get away with, how long he can throw it in. He doesn't take a ton of yellow cards. And for somebody who's that physical and who's that involved and who is like running backwards quite a bit because of how high of a position he plays, that's really a compliment on his discipline. And he's also like, is he 23 yet? Like,
it's 22 or 23. I mean, he plays like he's 25 or 26.
Yeah, he plays like a cagey old. He basically plays like, and this is a really stupid thing. And I don't know if it's how he kind of moves and stuff. He kind of reminds me of like when Ashley Young was good at United, kind of, and has that kind of like square, blocky but springy kind of thing. And he has like the kind of moves around with like rounded kind of tough guy shoulders, kind of. I mean, Ashley Young is like 40 years old now, so he's been shit for years and years because he's 100 years old. But there was a time where he was like good at football, and it was like a fairly difficult player to play against because of his positional versatility, and he was really good with dead balls and attacking, and he was still fast and physical and everything. And so he's like a deluxe, and this is like such an insult to Timber, but he's like a deluxe Ashley Young kind of. In his prime, and he's doing that when he's whatever he is, like, again, 22 or 23 years old, and he's only played 20 times for Arsenal, if that. So like, him getting a goal, I think, is good. He gets his flowers in the national media. He'll get in the papers, and people start noticing what he's doing, because like, I'm certain that they would want to play Bruno. The plan was to get Bruno and Garnacho running down that side, and they just couldn't he just couldn't do anything. It was just, like I said, just wet towel smothering. Just no, I'm in your back pocket, and you're not going anywhere. If I want to stop you, I'll just grab you, and you're not going anywhere. It's fine.
I think it was Adrian Clark, maybe it's somebody else on Handbrake Off a couple weeks ago, who suggested that Timber reminded them of Lauren back in the day. I think that's a really apt comparison. I know BX in the chat is saying they remind him of that. He reminds him of Reece James. I think that's another interesting comp. Really good on the ball, but also defensively stout. Luckily, it appears that Timber likes to play football and likes to stay relatively healthy beyond last year when he tore his ACL. So let's knock on wood, hope that he's going to have a healthier career than Reece James. But yeah, the man's a freaking animal. And to your point, Kelly, if he's 22, 23, he still has room to grow, which is scary given how good he is. I saw someone, I think you posted this, 680 people liked a comment that said Mezraoui was a better fullback than Timber on Instagram.
I almost jumped through my computer because they were doing that thing. I think it's Bleacher Report that does it, where it's like they go, do you take this player or this player when they're going to play? So it's like Raya or Onana. And then they kind of go through the whole team. And so both guys were like, yeah, Timber. And then there was like the comment where like 600 likes, like, oh, it's like, bro, not even close. Mezraoui's clear or something. It's like, what? Have you fucking like? I've watched this guy at Bayern. He's fine. He's a milquetoast like replacement level Premier League utility defender. That's what he is. He was the same thing at Bayern Munich. He is a 6.5 across the board. Can play different positions. A useful squad player in the same way that I'm trying to think of it. And like he's like a poor man's Tomiyasu kind of. He's like a healthy. If Tomiyasu was healthy and didn't have the high end physical ability, that's about what Mezraoui is as a frame of reference. So, like, could you imagine going in there and being like, "Ah, Tomiyasu is fucking clear of whatever." Tomiyasu is like the backup in 3 different positions. That's what Mezraoui really is, and his value is in his ability to play competently and versatilely in a bunch of different positions and different systems, but he has no high-end potential. Like, he is not a high-end athlete. He's not a technician. He's a solid Premier League player. And so to say that he's better than Timber, it was amazing that today, that right after that, and I want to go and search that comment because I don't have a life and my work is slow. So I'm going to go back to that and be like, excuse me, like anything, because Timber scored and then absolutely just fucking shit on their entire left-hand attacking side. And Mezraoui was just an all-around that did absolutely nothing.
I mean, Tim Stillman said it a couple pods ago. He said, Timber is like whatever part of the pitch you find him in, he chameleons himself into the best version of whatever that role is. So if he's in his defensive third in the right flank, he's the best kind of fullback you would want. If he's in the final third playing on the wing, he looks like a very competent winger. If he's on set pieces today, if he's on set pieces and you're putting a ball into the 6-yard box, he's going to get his head on it. He doesn't care if he's 5'9", right? He's going to score a goal. The guy just is such a good footballer, an all-around footballer, that he can do so many different jobs in so many different areas of the pitch that you don't lack anything in him going forward or in defense. And I think that's the ultimate compliment you can pay a player, that there is no visible weakness in his game, where you can play him in a variety of ways and he looks absolutely at home playing any of those ways against any opponent. And I think that's just, I mean, that's not Mezraoui. That's there's very few fullbacks in the world that can be paid that kind of compliment. He's
another Arteta player. So like, and that's one thing that I am a little bit worried about, I guess, with his replacement, Edu's replacement coming in, is that I knew who Timber was. I thought Timber was a center back in the Dutch league, right? And my brain to him coming in and being an elite Premier League right back was like, it takes something special to go and look at these players and figure out that they're going to be able to do all this different stuff, and it's going to complement your system. And
that's why Lauren is an apt comparison, because Lauren was a winger, I believe, and Wenger, who did this a lot with players, he said, "You're not a winger, you're a fullback," and he made him into a Premier League top 4 quality, maybe top 2 quality starting fullback. I mean, that's what Arteta just did with Timber. He took a center back who is primarily a center back, played a few games of fullback, but was primarily a center back, as you said, Kelly, and has made him one of the best fullbacks in the league.
That's why people need to hang out with, because I know Calafiore, some people are getting, like, you're getting murmurs about getting frustrated that he has some defensive liabilities and he's playing left back. It's like, just wait. Just wait. He's going to
put a chance.
Just wait, because it's all going to make sense. And he finds a way to sell these players on coming to Arsenal and playing in a different position. It's like, no, you're going to be fine. Don't worry. We got a plan for you. And I would just say, just look at the other side and what Timber's done. And truly his only, I mean, he literally tore his ACL in the first 40 minutes that he played his first season. And not only did he come back in like 8 months and play at the last match of last season, but he also has just come out and I think too, like, obviously this is like soft factor stuff, but I think Arteta like targets like good humans as well, because like Timber had like a sterling reputation for work ethic, and they had, remember when he left Ajax and they did that tribute video and he went and visited the youth team and everything on his way out, and apparently during his rehab he stayed in London instead of going back to Amsterdam. He stayed the entire time and was like with his teammates and everything. And that's like, it seems like the Arsenal hierarchy has it pretty much dialed in the type of person and player that they want to have and that they want to use and want to feature. And maybe some of the little, I mean, again, that's soft factors. You need the talent, you need the versatility, you need the toughness, all that type of stuff. But when you're Arsenal, I mean, we're among the top, 8 to 10 clubs in the world, probably better than that. You're going to have your pick of the top sliver of players. And so instead of buying Anthony, you buy somebody else, right? Instead of buying these, like, you have the ability to like not sign Rabiot on a free because he's a raging prick and everybody hates him. Like you don't need to bring all these, like, he spent a lot of time and the ownership spent a lot of money fucking off toxic players who are selfish and stupid and lazy, and we're not down for it. And once you do all that and spend all that, I think it's a pretty, if your radar is tuned well to find players that are not just a good technical and physical fit, but cultural fit too, you'll spend more money to get them. And we spent money to get Timber, and it's paying off. And we spent a lot of money on Havertz, and we got laughed at a lot spending all that money on Havertz. And he's been seamless basically from about 15 matches into last season to now, and it's particularly since he started playing this kind of hybrid 8-9 role that he plays. Like, Havertz's best friend on the whole wide world is Odegaard, and they're both having children at roughly the same time. And to my knowledge, Odegaard's child didn't have to be born on the bathroom delivered by Gunnersaurus into his hat, like somebody suggested online yesterday.
And then claims he was just joking. Yes.
Yes. That's that funny joke that you committed. It's like Andy Kaufman being like, "Oh, never mind, I'm not a wrestler," in the middle of that bit. It's like, I think you're just mentally ill, dude. Like, I think that's what that's about. But anyway, sorry, Mikey. That's an old media reference. I don't think you know who Andy Kaufman is. Yeah, that's all right. That's
I did.
okay.
No, the only thing I got going on right now as far as films and media and anything TV related is just poking the bear whether Die Hard is.
I beat you to
it. So whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie or an action film. So I would like to bring
things
that
can
up.
be two things.
Things could be two things. What was it gonna? I was
far away from that debate.
Within our far away. Within our the little Timber conversation that you guys had, I was gonna say that between the Timber goal and the Saliba goal, Raya once again coming up really big at a really crucial moment, because United did factually have 2 shots on goal. One of them was a brilliant header. Maybe I'm being a little too gracious by saying brilliant header, but it was a really well-placed header at the very least. And Raya had to really stretch, and he managed to get the ball out. Massive save in a really crucial moment, because we didn't want to go 1-1 at that point. United came through the Emirates to stink up the place, and he did fantastic once again. So he must be just absolutely buzzing with the performances that he got going on. Absolutely love him. Just one more for the Raya camp, and as Chris likes to call the Ramsdalians, one less point for them. And that's just, he's really growing into top goalkeeper in the world type of form, and within this season and maybe potentially even last season. And we talk about last season with all the clean sheets, and you could credit it to a lot of defensive work that Arsenal put in. But this season specifically, we could think of maybe probably 5 really big saves. So he's kept us in a lot of games. He's been really important. So he's been absolutely massive for us. I give him a shout out. You mentioned Kai Havertz. Shout out to him. We didn't have the opportunity to talk too much about the West Ham game, but I thought his goal for the West Ham was cool, calm, and composed. And, we often joke around about him being goofy. And I thought his finish versus West Ham was just absolutely amazing. Now, just because we're talking about I'm transitioning to the West Ham game slightly here, boys. What do you guys think about the whole Odegaard Saka penalty thing? Like, do we care at all?
Nope.
No. Okay. Gonna get a second on that one, Kelly, because I thought it was funny. I did find I saw one pundit, saying it's foolish, or I forgot what word he used to describe it. And I'm like, dude, we've been doing this for a really long time. Yeah.
Dixon. Your favorite and mine.
Oh God, when I saw that he was doing our match today, I was like, oh God, this is gonna be fucking insufferable. Anyway, I trust Odegaard and Saka implicitly. They're completely, as people, if they want to have that conversation and Havertz wants to get in there too, I trust them to make the right decision. And if they miss, I still trust it was the right decision because they're high quality players and both high quality people, and they will have their reasons for selecting that. And so here's the thing though, with Saka being the designated penalty taker and getting that to Odegaard, is that's if you need yet another example of Saka's character and that he's not this stat monger, right? He's a really good penalty taker, and it was a goal for him, but he gave it to Odegaard. And again, for whatever their reasons, and I speculate that there's probably something to do with getting Odegaard going and getting him his goal and kind of getting him off and running after being out for a couple months. I trust him, and it's one of those things that I think that there's, as Arsene Wenger would say, the harmony is, the spirit is quite good right now.
Perhaps that's also, they've engineered it this way because if we want to do big things in cup competitions where PKs become a thing, potentially, Champions League, etc., you may want more than one guy that can hit a penalty under real pressure.
It's useful.
And in a game against West Ham where that game's won, what's to be gained by letting the same guy continue to swing at PKs when he's going to score them anyways? I would almost rather have 2 or 3 guys that have some real experience taking some pressure PKs in games like that, so that when you get to a moment where it truly matters in a cup competition where if you don't convert your PKs, you're out, Champions League especially, you're going to want a couple guys that can hit those under pressure. So for me, I said I don't really care, and I don't think I really care, but wouldn't it be nice, isn't it nice, that we've got at least 2 guys, and we probably have more than that, who, if you need a goal from a PK, you have to score it or you're out. You've got 2 guys you can rely on to hit that. And I would trust, as you said, Kelly, I'd trust Odegaard and Saka because they've both shown me with consistency lately that they can tuck that ball just inside a post and hit the side netting on command. And no goalkeeper in the world, no matter whether they guess the right direction or not, is going to be able to save it. So the more they can do that in real time pressure situations, the more likely they're going to be able to convert that in games that truly matter. So for me, it doesn't really matter, but the benefit to sharing the goal, the penalty kick taking, is that we're going to have 2 guys, at least 2 guys who can hit it when it matters.
Better sharp, so to say. BX Gunner in the live chat saying he doesn't like it at all. He says Saka needs to be a little bit more selfish.
You should come on the pod and tell us about it.
Yeah, you should tell us a new one. Yes. Is that what you're going to do?
Along with, come on, you Gunners.
Come on, you Gunners. Yes, we need.
Well, that's how much we suck.
Here's an interesting one.
He's not wrong.
Agree in the sense that he says Salah wouldn't give up a pen. Now he said Salah wouldn't give up a pen, neither would Henry. The only reason I'm countering Henry is because Henry had that weird thing where he was the one that got fouled, and he's the one that provoked the pen. He would refuse to take the pen.
Well, that was Wenger's rule.
Oh, it's Wenger's rule. Oh, okay,
Yep.
I did not know
Wenger
that.
said if you were the one that was fouled, somebody else has to take the penalty.
Fuck's sake, dude. Wenger out.
Another reason why you hate Wenger
out. This is why I'm Wenger out, bro. I'm telling you.
He had. And remember, Thierry Henry had the most hilarious penalty thing ever, which is he faked a shot to tap the ball so that Pires could sprint in and slam it.
That was awesome.
For absolutely no reason. And I'm still not convinced
on penalties.
I'm still not convinced that was illegal. They blew it dead because it was weird, but I don't think they did anything wrong. I mean, I think
didn't Cruyff do that earlier prior to Henry?
I think so.
Yeah, that was a Dutch thing. That was completely there's nothing against the rules of the game. I don't know if they've changed the rules of the game since, but it had been done prior to them. All I'm saying is Biak, Tuner, and I are now. He's joining me in the camp of Wenger out, and I got recruited one more for the team. So we're doing good, boys.
He's out already, Mike. I think you're fine.
He's
been out for a while.
He's too busy doing weird shit for weird tap dances for UEFA. No.
Yeah. He's trying to. He's trying to add another 10 teams.
Trying to change the offside rule. He's trying to make the World Cup every 2 years. Just
100 teams in the World Cup every 2 years. So
let me tell you, I don't know what angers me more about Wenger. I'm just throwing this out there. I don't know. This is a difficult one. The fact that he refused to bring Fabregas back to the club.
The dementia years, sorry.
that comment killed me. I'm sorry. I don't know what obsessed me more about Wenger. The fact that he didn't want to bring Fabregas back to the club, or that fucking offside rule. I hate that offside rule so goddamn much, Chris, because it's giving such a massive advantage to the
attacker.
To the attacker. I hate it.
It doesn't solve any problems.
It doesn't solve it.
Because
literally Kelly had more of a hey man, just give it's black and white, give them an extra inch. And just call it black and white, whether he's off a millimeter or not. That's at least, giving a player a little bit of an advantage. I mean, it's kind of it might have been the West Ham game, but it might have been the game prior to that when I got really frustrated that the linesman waved his flag. Arsenal had scored. I'm forgetting who was the one that scored. Who they scored against. I'm forgetting the game, but immediately the flag went up. It ultimately went to VAR review and they gave it a offside ruling. But I was kind of it took you 3-4 minutes to figure out he was offside. What the fuck did the linesman see that he instinctively no? I saw something and I thought that was offside. And I was fucko, you guessed at best and made it up most likely, because there was almost nothing to the naked eye in which you could see that a player was offside, but you resorted to literally, if VAR took 3 to 5 minutes to figure that shit out, it's almost like they were looking for a way to, justify it in a way. No, our guy is, he's good. We need to figure this out. So I don't know. Let's talk a little bit about the Liverpool thing, boys. Let's see. They finally dropped a little points. It's very encouraging. I'm happy about that. I was extremely distraught when Gordon decided to be. Yeah, when they were being Newcastle was being a little wasteful. Mm-hmm. On top of that, they tie up the game, and I'm thrilled. And then almost immediately, Mo Salah, the cheat code that Mo Salah is.
God, he's fucking good.
He's so fucking good. Scores 3-2, and we're at the same time. I think our game was still 0-0, so it just caused a little bit more friction. But luckily, Newcastle managed to pull one back. That's 2 points dropped for Liverpool. It was a difficult away game at St. James Park. 7 points clear. None of us were giving up hope on the league last game week. No, none of us were oh my goodness, 9 points, we can never recover it. It does feel difficult trailing. It was funny. Declan Rice, they asked him a question about the league, and he was it's too early. And he goes, what is it, 9 points, 10 points
games behind? Yeah, 10 points behind.
Yeah, he couldn't even remember. So to say, either he played it off very well, or he legitimately is not paying that much attention to it. But even he was kind of like, it's just too early to tell. And I mean, if anything, a last minute draw, Liverpool dropping 2 points, 7 instead of 9. It's psychologically, at least for the supporter, a little bit more encouraging. So, more to come, so to say. They have, Everton next game. Everton is not that great. We all know that, but they've been not that great before and somehow managed to trick fuck Liverpool into dropping points. So you never know.
It's a huge derby. It's
derby.
The biggest one that they have.
Shortly after that, I think they're visiting either Spurs or Aston Villa. And again, those teams, you never know what the fuck they're going to show up with. That's the thing is with them, it's not their consistency, is the fact that Spurs could put 4 past City one day and they go fucking lose against Ipswich. So it's kind of generally curious to see how that's going to play out.
Mikey, I think you're 100% right too. We touched on we've had the most horrible luck ever, right? Where we've basically lost, in my opinion, we've lost 4 points because of minor technical infractions that have led to sending offs. That have, as we always say, by the time we get to basically mid-October, will never happen again, right?
And it hasn't.
And it only seems to happen to Arsenal. So we're basically, in my mind, and this is maybe me being a little bit deluded, but if things are just refereed, not if we get the benefit of that, if things are just refereed normally, like everybody else, it's 4 more points. And so I just don't. Watching Liverpool, especially when they don't have Konate in there, I think that they have kind of a glass jaw. Now they can punch too, right? So they can get knocked down and get up and just fucking knock you out too because they have so much firepower. But
a glass cannon.
They have holes in their team. That is not a vintage. It's not one of their high 90s point total teams. And so I do think that they're going to be bobbles. And will they have enough for us to close it? I don't know. But I think that there's enough holes in that team. And even Kelleher too, who's been playing kind of way above his level, he just leveled out a little bit. He made a mistake because he's a backup goalkeeper and he has not shown enough or doesn't have enough experience and isn't good enough to be an outright starting goalkeeper. And he cost them 2 points in this match. He could have easily tipped the last play away and he just let it go because he lost track of what he was and he lost his concentration. And that's the kind of shit that happens. And they haven't gotten stung by their injury crisis quite yet, or their injured players yet. And this was the first time that's okay, well, you have injured players. So that literally not having Allison there just cost them 2 points today. And so that shit happens a lot of times. And if they're going to continue to play with injured players or have to again, not having Konate, some other people are kind of in and out. Again, I think to your point too, Mikey, Salah's a cheat code. And is he going to continue to if Salah's going to score 25 goals and have 12 assists, they're probably going to win the league, right? If he's going to have mid to high 20s league goals and he's going to win the Golden Boot by 5, what can you do? They have enough other stuff on their team to, if he can just go out and just fucking cunt it in from nowhere, then yeah, they're probably going to be fine. But I suppose with Arsenal too, if Gabriel scores 7 goals off of corners this year, we'll probably make a real fist of it too, because it's 6 bonus goals that you have and the points that you win off of that one cheat code player, right? Or
he'd be the leading goal scorer for United with 7 goals.
It's fucking hilarious. But
well played, Chris. Well played. Perfect timing.
Yeah, it's really one of those things where I think it's pretty clear that Liverpool are by far and away the favorite. And it's probably the top 4. Another thing, because I'm agreeing with Mike today, apparently is my brand now, is just reiterating what Mike says in a group chat and posing it as my own information.
I like it.
Yeah, it's pretty clear that the class of the Premier League is Liverpool, Arsenal, City, and Chelsea. That's it. I think it's starting to separate now. I think there's going to be a pretty big gap between the top 4 and 5th, 6th. I think there's a pretty distinct line there. But what happens up there, I think there's a lot of variables that can come in. And Liverpool are probably going to win the league, and Arsenal or City or Chelsea will probably finish fairly tight together after that. But Salah's 30 years old, and if he turns his ankle, they're fucked. In the same way that we were fucked when Odegaard turned his ankle and was out for 2 months, and we dropped about 7 points that we wouldn't have dropped otherwise because he was out. So
Another thing going for Liverpool is what I dub now, Chris, and you and I were discussing this, is I'm calling it the coot tax.
I was just about to mention that.
Fucking coot.
Yeah. Nothing has been said, investigation pending, so to say, right? It's going on with David Coote. But I do think that not only that, I think if the video would have came about, it would have been one thing. The video of him talking shit about Klopp was one thing. Him snorting white substance on let's call it that. It would have been
fucking ref, man.
But it's
Not
the
cool.
fact that another report came out saying that the PGMOL was aware of the video, and and Elliot brought up a really, really good point, and I strongly AVP, no introduction needed.
Yeah.
He's like, there's no fucking way you're that outrageous and your employer knows nothing about it. And I thought that was a really interesting point that he brought up, because like I again, we all know, we've all said this before, that the PGML is kind of treated like a big boys club. They all watch each other's back, and they always do it, and that's why he's currently on leave, and he'll probably like honestly ride out the rest of the season getting paid of some way and just being investigated. But the fact that the story broke that PGML was aware of the video, aware of the drugs, and still put him on to referee games for Liverpool. Now, we talk about optics and how little these fuckos do to avoid bad optics.
Yeah.
But my fucking goodness, talk about fucking yourselves over there. And I just think with putting Coote there, and of course, Liverpool supporters were able to dig out questionable calls. And by all means, if I'm Arsenal, if I'm a Liverpool supporter, I'm doing the same thing as them. So I'm not even bashing them for looking up for that footage. I'm not bashing them for having to go at the PGMOL. Lord knows I love myself a good dig at the PGMOL. But I generally believe that, like, there was an incident in which Virgil van Dijk did that cunty thing where he didn't even go for the ball. He just, displaced, I think it was Gordon. And there was another questionable penalty, and there was another like questionable card. And I just don't see any of these soft-ish type calls ever going against Liverpool this season. So I think if they fumble and lose the league, it's generally on a sporting level in which they just shit the bed and start losing games, which is completely plausible, via injury or some other thing. But I'm not expecting them to get a soft second yellow. I'm not expecting them to not get a penalty call in favor, and I'm not expecting them to get a penalty call against them like the one that we witnessed versus Newcastle, because I do think that the PGML is trying to avoid as much smoke as possible to see until they could figure out a way to keep Coote around, but keep the backlash to a minimum.
Meanwhile, we've got Jared Gillett, who spent 4 minutes
fucking ridiculous
trying to find in the VAR room some reason to overturn one of our goals off the.
Yeah, it was the Saliba butt goal.
Yeah, the Saliba butt goal. He was looking for offside, and he desperately tried to find any which way to find it. Spent, again, 3 or 4 minutes looking for that, and there was clearly nothing there.
Why is a Liverpool fan in the VAR booth for you? Again, talking about optics,
that's that optics things that I talk about all the time.
You need to care what people look, and if it doesn't matter, that's fine. Like,
his fifth game, by the way, in 14 matches that he's been a referee.
Geez, he's just perpetually attached to Arsenal. Like, that's also somebody tweeted. I can't remember. It's a fairly big fan account. It's like, you know what? A official I've never heard of was the center ref in this match, and you did a really good job. More of that, please, or something that effect.
Whatever his name is, yeah,
more new people.
Yeah, more. Look at that. Didn't make themselves a story. Wasn't a big deal. The match was officiated really well, really consistently. No silliness.
Yeah, where's he been?
No,
that's a massive fixture. You don't need Michael Oliver, Anthony Taylor, the standard crooks officiating every big match.
You don't need players or fans from both teams chanting to Michael Oliver, it's all about you.
Exactly.
Because they have like that. That's actually something where he's reacting to that in the crowd too. And it's like, you deserve it because you've shaved lightning bolts on the side of your head before you go to the World Cup or whatever, or European Heroes, and you do make everything about you, and we're all sick of it. And like, yeah, it was very, very refreshing to have it. And I'm assuming, who was the official today?
Sam something.
Okay, Sam something. You didn't make it about
you. I don't even know his name, which is a good sign.
You presided
weekend, Sam something.
incredibly competently above a very
Sam
charged
Barrett.
fixture. Again, don't know who that is.
No,
Perfect.
know.
More you. And it does make me think, too, it's like where the retort for rotating referees is also, English doesn't, we make it so hard on officials, so we don't have any good ones, so we have to use you. It's like, this fucking guy, I don't know, he's the best official that we've seen lately, totally without controversy, controlled the match. It could have been a really testy game, didn't get out of control, no dumb yellows, plenty of talking tos, sorted things out on the court. Like, it was a really well and cleanly officiated match without any controversy whatsoever, except that the talking head asshole, one of the big name guys in the VR booth, spending 4 minutes trying to find something that wasn't there. That's the only thing that happened. So it's like, okay, I'm not buying that. You have to have these guys. Just bring some of the other guys that are good. And like, that would be something that the feedback, and I would even say from like United, the feedback was like, this is a really well officiated match. Like, they didn't get any players sent off. They didn't get any ridiculous yellows. Like, it was just well managed, and they took it was just everybody got out. Nobody got injured from crashing into each other. There wasn't any absurd shit that happened because he didn't try to interject himself into big moments. He just refereed the match capably and competently and non-intrusively and let the match play out without anybody getting hurt. And it's like, that's your job. And it wasn't a great spectacle because Manchester United suck and Arsenal can be tedious sometimes. And it was like pissing rain. It was 30 degrees out, but like, we didn't have an official ruin anything. And I'm sure Dale Johnson will be crying into his fucking soup tonight by himself at home.
He's not going to have anything to talk about. Yeah, it's still astonishing how every other league in the world, there's no 3 to 5 minute reviews.
No,
there's like 1 to 2 minute reviews, and if not, they're like, fuck it, just you come and look at the monitor, you come and make up your mind. Mm-hmm. Like it's substantially quicker, legitimately. Like I don't know why it is like that, but generally curious to see the changes. I'm desperately waiting for the automated offside. I just think it's wonderful that they could do it within a fraction, of the time in which they're doing it right now. They have wonky lines. Worse with the wonky lines, they don't have the technology. They don't have like good technology to actually fucking have real still frames at the adequate times and the adequate framing and the adequate lines to do everything. We've said this in the past. The league as a whole needs to standardize and say, hey, you need a camera here, 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 here. And if not, you're getting fined or something for not being compliant within VAR camera regulation. They have to have something. We got to stop this. This stadium has a camera. This stadium doesn't. This one does. And I think that's one of the reasons why they don't use, if I'm not mistaken, VAR in like the cup games in which like a second division team don't have certain technologies and cameras. And I'm like, well, it's not like we're doing a great job in the first division ourselves right now. And the first division has just a filthy amount of money to do this. So it's just literally incompetence, laziness, whatever the word is that you want to use here. But it's just the lack of fuck, as I like to say, to make the game better.
A random aside too, how sad are United have to play us again in the FA Cup, by the way? Don't they have to come here?
During the FA Cup draw, it happened at Old Trafford, and there were a bunch of United fans there, and they all like moaned.
It's like,
oh my God, do we really have to play Arsenal in the third round? Like, they do not want any piece of us.
I absolutely love that.
It's helpful that it's here too, because it's just like, especially after we just paddle them here, just coming in, it's like, I get to fucking do this again. Like,
but by the way, I just found an article online about Sam Barrett. He was the guy who was the center ref for our Leicester City victory. And apparently he was criticized so much for not giving a decision in the build-up to one of our goals, and then also for not sending Calafiori off, that he was told to not referee for a couple of weeks as punishment, but has since been reinstated. So
are you talking about the Calafiori one where there was a common foul that everybody wanted him sent off for after he was on a yellow?
Apparently that was controversial. We had no idea.
Well, I'll point you in the direction of who's the fucking Croatian guy for City that decided to do about 3 studs up challenges in 90 seconds. And the explanation was from the director of the PGMOL is that they didn't want to ruin the spectacle.
Yeah.
That's why he wasn't sent off.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
miss
okay.
me with the whole. I didn't give Calafiore a second yellow. I'm gonna punish you for it. Yeah.
I mean, this is like, I think we're gonna. Here's my prediction: is that some of these guys are gonna get sober, and there's gonna be a big tell-all that's gonna happen. It's gonna be either a Netflix documentary or it's going to be a book, and they're gonna absolutely just gut this shit fest and dump it all out there so we can see all the nasty shit that these fuckers have been eating for the last 30 years.
I'm gonna be so fucking obnoxious if that happens. Oh my god, I'm gonna be so fucking obnoxious.
Again, Mike, if I'm not joking, and I've said this before on this podcast, I'm certain if I was made aware of Mike Riley's presence in a bar, I would probably go to jail.
Fair enough.
Or if I like sweet irony, I would just 2 foot through the back of his leg and be like, "Oh, it's just a yellow though, right? It's just a talking to."
As you
rolling
can,
around holding
see,
his
I
broken
didn't
leg.
rake the calf.
See, I would come up behind you as your wingman, pull out my cards, and give you a yellow.
Just
be beautiful.
run out of there. No,
say sorry, you left me no choice.
Because about once every month or two, I watch the highlights of that, and especially when
it always comes
Van Nistelrooy raked his studs from on Ashley Cole's knee all the way down to his foot, and he didn't even get a card for that. It's like it's one of those things where there's never been a more. Where is Sebi right now? Like, there's never been a more again, Mike.
I'll text him a link right now.
Again, because I'm just your echo today, as my entire vibe is just repeating things that Mike has said and agreeing with them. Think of how much power you have to have and how unconcerned you have to be about your job security and your status to officiate that match like that to make sure that the winning run ends.
Yeah.
And then after all of that, giving a no-touch foul to Rooney for the penalty where he's so clearly not touched. And that was the guy who ran the officials for a decade after that. I mean, these are people who you don't want to advocate political violence or anything, but probably should have a random stranger punch him in the back of the head at least once in public to just be like, yeah, we're not going to forget you.
We're not going to be people. We're just simply saying if it just so happens to happen.
When you go on the ground, people are going to pee on your grave, man. Like,
yeah,
they're going to find you and they're going to piss on it.
Like, okay,
literally.
Here's and I was going to end the stream about 5 minutes ago, but here I'm just going to say this one controversial thing for everybody to understand how my brain functions and how I could be a little bit of a shitty person sometimes. Remember that English ref that fucked up? Like, was it like a Europe League final? For like Jose Mourinho, like for Roma, it was like Roma Fiorentina, I think Roma somebody, but basically he was Jose Mourinho waited until after the game, confronted him. They got recording, and then the guy was like around the streets, and he like fans were confronting him and pushing him and stuff like that. Like if you told me tomorrow if something leaked that like Mike Riley was at a bar in London, and somebody punched him in the face, I know that everybody's gonna be like, you can't fucking do that. You can't do that. And I'm going to be like, no, you can. You definitely can. And that's
you get punched in bars all the time.
And I'm such a piece of shit maybe for that, because I understand that people are like, it's just a game. I'm like, no, you only revert to it's just a game because you want to do this. But like, if you felt the feelings that, supporters felt, and you felt that it was intentional, I think you get more defensive, but I know that I know a lot of people disagree with me on that because I've been told that they disagreed with me plenty of times on that. No place for violence and whatnot. And I'm more like, hey, you provoked it, motherfucker. So you got what you got. All right. Let's end this podcast, boys. I got to go to sleep. Chris, you want to tell dear listeners where they could find you? You want to have any more final statements on this pod?
Nope. I'm on Blue Sky. No, I'm not on Blue Sky. I'm on X. Still. You guys are gonna join me one. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do a spoof. I'm just gonna create a bunch of spoof accounts at Salmetro AFC /Blue Sky.
Just I was posting.
I'm gonna start pretending like I'm everybody.
I'm fine with you doing that as long as you continue my banter behavior that I do on X over on Blue Sky.
That's what
I have a feeling that everybody's gonna come back to X eventually, but we'll see.
You're gonna be my alter ego, in which like when I want to just call somebody like a doofus for a stupid opinion, but I never do it with my personal account because I'm like, just don't, Mike. Like, rather not engage with dumb people. But you're gonna be like my alter ego, where I'm just gonna like
Your alt accounts.
Yeah. Kelly, you want to tell dear listeners where they could find you? Not on Blue Sky, I know that. Or you want to just say your final hurrahs?
At South Metro AFC. I don't do Blue Sky or True Social. I'm too old to find any sort of weird partisan thing. Find me on Twitter. That's where I'm at. That's where I do my football stuff. So find me there. That's it.
We're old enough that we still call it Twitter.
Yeah, it's never going to be X. Sorry, Elon, I can't do that. It's not.
Sorry.
Kelly also has a little-known MySpace account, but he's not going to tell you what it is.
I'll probably have my lumps playing in the background of my MySpace account in a MIDI file. Let's be real.
I just want to, if I ever find it, Kelly, if I'm not, was it 5'5", favorite 7, whatever it fucking was. If I didn't make the list, I'm going to be disappointed in you, sir.
I'm gonna have to look for it now.
I'm going to have to look for it now. All right, boys. Thank you. Doing the Gabriel, not the Gyoko Day celebration this time. All right, you can find it. My name is Mike Hurst. You can find it Mike Hurst FC factually on both Twitter and Blue Sky and Threads, but Threads died out very, very quickly. This has been Not Another Arsenal podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. I think Sebi is still posting stuff on Instagram. Not 100% sure. If I'm not mistaken, good old Digi Scott will post us on Blue Sky too. So we're all over the place. Boys and girls, live chat. You've been awesome. Thank you so much. Later. Peace.
Right foot this time, Martin Odegaard.
Zinchenko from Ketty, it's 4. Martinelli tiptoeing in. Predatory, perfect. There is a gorgeous arrogance about Arsenal now.
It really is. They are enjoying every second of this.